Great. I'll just give a short introduction here to get things going. I'll share my screen really quickly. Yep. So we all can see the presentation, right? Great. So welcome everyone. It really is a great pleasure to be here and discuss, I think, this very timely topic about artificial intelligence and democratic integrity. What's interesting about this one is that we'll be talking about the Balkan region, which is a bit of in a unique situation, I would say, in Europe. There's very particular challenges and opportunities that this region faces. And we're very lucky today to have a very technically skilled panel of speakers and experts that have dedicated years to studying various aspects of these places and the challenges that this new technology brings. And we're very lucky to have them share with us their expertise. So I'm very excited. And this webinar is actually brought to you by the Solaris Consortium, an EU-funded project. And as part of that consortium, I have the pleasure of presenting the speakers soon. As for any ground rules or things like that, I just want to inform everyone that they are free to ask questions in the group chat, and we'll try to get through everything so that we can still remain on time while addressing everything. But if you have questions remaining, then you can always send those to us and we'll get to them via email. I also created a little poll in case not the participants, but the people who join us are interested in contributing to the AI discussion. So, yep. For now, we'll just go through a little breakdown of the agenda. We'll start with an overview of the Solaris project. That is from Federica Russo. She is the head of the consortium and a much better speaker than myself, so she can do this presentation more justice. So I'll leave that part up to her. After the introduction of Solaris, we will move on to Professor Dubravko's talk, which is an interesting one, synergistic interface between humans and AI in policymaking. I think this one is quite fascinating topic. We will then move on to AI and democracy with Bardul Yashari. This is something that is quite close to what Solaris is doing as well, so it's a very useful discussion for everyone involved. Then we'll hear from a quite technically proficient speaker in machine learning and AI, and observing some of the uses of AI in settings that perhaps we have not really considered in the Solaris project and in the public purview as well. Then Ledia Changa joins us from Albania for AI and cybersecurity, always a pressing issue. Thank you, Ledia. We'll do a little Q&A, try to be brief, and I'll try to close the session within 2 hours so everyone can continue their very busy schedules. But again, thanks for being here, everyone. It's a pleasure. And the best part of it all is the panelists. As I mentioned, Federica Russo is here. She is a professor of philosophy and ethics of technoscience at Utrecht University. She'll be giving the Solaris talk. As for the Balkan representatives, we have Professor Dubravko. He is the founding director of the Artificial Intelligence Research and Development Institute in Serbia. So quite a good find for Solaris, I think. We have Bardul Yashari joining us from North Macedonia, and he's the executive director of the Metamorphosis Foundation. Bardul has around 20 years of experience in advancing topics of open governance, digital rights, and media literacy. Next up, we have Itana, a senior machine learning engineer and co-founder and executive board member of the Montenegrin AI Association, MAIA. And then we have Ledia Tsanga. She's a senior cybersecurity risk management expert, actually working at the National Cybersecurity Authority in Albania. So these are the representatives of the Balkans. And with that in mind, I'll give the floor to the first speaker so that we can listen to a bit about Solaris. So Federica, that's the ball is in your court now, and yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Give me a second so I can share my screen. Let me see. Can you see my screen with the in full screen now? Okay,
Yes.
super. Um, Thank you very much for this opportunity. Let me open with deep thanks to John for putting together a very interesting event, and to all of you, the panelists, for agreeing to be with us this afternoon. We have identified since the very beginning the Balkans as a very interesting area to look at. But you have the expertise, and so we all look forward to hearing from you why this geographical, geopolitical area in Europe is so special. My task here is way more humble, which is giving an introduction to the project. Solaris has a pretty complicated title, which is Strengthening Democratic Engagement Through Value-Based Generative Adversarial Networks, which I knew I would never remember in full until the end of the project. But basically, what we are interested in is assessing how these new technologies, back then when we wrote the proposal was generative adversarial networks, and now it is the way broader class of generative AI, how it can impact democratic processes in good or less good ways. Let me see. Okay. Um, we have an interdisciplinary and international consortium. You can see that we are scattered through Europe, from south to east to north. And in terms of disciplines, we have humanities with philosophy and ethics, but also semiotics and media studies, as well as international relations and law, computer science, journalism and media, and also citizen science. So we really try to have the whole spectrum of the areas that have an interest in understanding this new and important phenomenon, which is generative AI in the social and democratic spheres. Now, oops, sorry, this is the wrong one. The project had three objectives. I say had because we are in the final 5 months, so it already feels like we have done a lot, and I hope I will be able to convey how much we have done so far. Our first objective was understanding technical and socio-political potential of generative AI. We also aimed at investigating options for co-creating and the regulatory innovation for general risk mitigation, and finally co-design value-based AI-generated outputs to enhance digital citizenship and democracy. From the very beginning, we thought that we really needed to have a nuanced approach to deepfakes, or the AI generated content. We have been focusing mainly on audiovisual contents, so pictures, videos, combination of audio and visuals. And one of the first things that we did was starting inventorize what deepfakes were circulating. And what you see on this slide is just an excerpt of an Excel file that we were trying to compile, and we quickly realized that deepfakes are not all alike. It really depends on the technical features, but also what kind of purpose they are made for, how they are circulated, but also whether they include or not forms of disclosure, and also what kind of visibility do they get from different audiences. So this was already a first important step to realize that we could not treat a deepfake as just a melting pot and treat them all alike. And from a more theoretical perspective, we started looking at AI generated content, not just for its own technical features, but in a broader perspective that I'm going to explain in a second. We developed what we have called a network approach to deepfake. And the reason is that in the beginning, a lot of attention has been placed on the quality of these videos or these pictures. And some of these things were actually quite funny to watch on social media, etc. But some people were worried instead of the more serious ones, saying once they reach a certain quality, then we have to worry for, say, the geopolitical stability of Europe. And instead, we started thinking that this was the wrong way of looking at it, and that quality was but one of the important features of AI generated content. One thing that we have been increasingly interested in is how people come to trust the contents of these AI generated videos or audiovisual contents. And we have been using this metaphor of it takes a village to believe in a deep fake to signal that, again, it is not just the quality, but there is a whole network that we have to consider. So, from who are the developers, how it is spread, who is the target, what kind of exposure do we have in terms of the audience, the social media distribution, the online circulation, the policy, and the public discourse that gets created around these things. This network approach has really helped us a lot in identifying and setting up our three use cases. The first use cases was an empirical study, mainly from a psychological perspective, rooted in this network approach and developing a psychometric scale of the perceived trustworthiness of AI generated content. And some papers have been already published. Some of the results are also available in our deliverables that are accessible from our website. And just to give you spoilers alert, as you can imagine, it is not just the quality of the video. There is also to be something to be worried about, which is that the vast majority of people is pretty bad at detecting the deepfake, and this is also when the deepfakes are of poor quality. There are more nuances in this approach, but this is a super summary of what this study has tried to establish. Our second use case was instead related to how AI generated contents circulate and whether there are mitigations measures. So here the perspective was not so much the public, the general public, but the media and the media specialist and the journalism sector. So we tried to simulate the spreading of deepfake in the sense that we created ourselves some deepfakes and trying to discuss with specialists, would you consider them credible or not? What are the mitigation measures? What is the workflow and pipeline in media outlets such that these things do not just get spreaded without enough checking? Here, what we have found out is that the more solid the media outlet, the more we can indeed trust that deepfakes do not fall through their cracks. But we have to keep in mind that they are highly trained specialists that look at these videos. So likely they will not be the ones who spread this material, but this material gets spread anyway. And of course, there is a lot to be said about the role of fact checkers, which is necessary but also insufficient to keep the media, the online environment, a safe space. Our third use case try to tackle the question from the perspective of can there be AI for good? Or, in other words, granted that there are many risks related to the fabrication of AI generated audiovisual contents, but can this content also convey good, positive, and constructive messages, and under what conditions? And here we engaged in workshops with the citizens, proposing to them a number of videos that used very well-known figures conveying messages. And again, there is a lot to be said about how these are perceived, but also there is a lot more to be discussed on the ethics of this. For instance, are we okay with using the image of deceased person, no matter how well known they are? You will be able to see more details in the deliverables that are at the moment in preparation. And to conclude, and hopefully also in line with what we are going to discuss right now, I think we reached quite a decent understanding of what is going on with this phenomenon. And the phase of making policy recommendation is, of course, the hardest one. But it seems to me that a few key messages are in order. And one is the importance of empowering digital citizenship and education, promoting self awareness, caution, and proactiveness. No matter how much these things are important, they also put a lot kind of the burden on the individual subject, while in Solaris we will also try to advance the view that there has to be an effort from the regulation side to counterbalance this kind of individual responsibility in being users, consumers of online media. And this concludes my brief presentation of Solaris. Thank you again for agreeing to be in the panel. John, I hand it over to you, and I look forward to listening to this fascinating conversation. Thank you.
Well, thanks very much, Federica. That was great. I think we all got a little bit of understanding in this very huge project. So this was not an easy presentation, but thank you. I think according to the agenda, we'll move with Professor Dubravko in his talk. And if you could go ahead, please.
Yeah. Let me share it somehow, right? Okay, desktop, share, and with a little luck.
Perfect.
Would this would be better, huh?
That's perfect. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so I wasn't really sure what to talk about, and we have not really worked specifically on democracy, but we do use generative AI of the more of a LLM kind. And I'm going to talk a little bit about something that we do in the Balkans, in Serbia, as part of another EU-funded project. And the pilot that we are developing and implementing is basically all about how you could use AI to help the policymakers in our government, in our ministries, actually kind of derive better policies and explore the data and make it, numbers based versus I just feel this is going to be a good way to go about it. And so just 2 slides about Ivy. We're a new institute founded only in 2021. Now we have about 65 researchers. And basically, what we wanted is to create an environment where you can, in the Balkans and in Serbia, do research of the kind that you would do in a normal, MLAI group in London or Trento or Florida, where I did my PhD and so on. And so we're based in the north in Novi Sad, but we have offices throughout Serbia, so in Belgrade and in Niš. And we do quite a few both research and commercial projects. and we work quite well on national level pilots and implications and things like that. And so the project I was going to talk about, and I'm going to talk about, also has like Solaris has a short name. We call it Tango, and we didn't even bother to create an acronym. So we just said it takes two to tango, a synergistic approach to human AI decision making. And the idea is that people inevitably, use AI and data science to derive reach some kind of a decision. And as the models get more complex, then a lot of the things below under the hood kind of remain hidden. So you are likely to kind of reach a decision maybe without even understanding what the caveats are and what the problems are and so on. And so this European Union decided to give us some money to try to figure out how to do this, but in a way that is not misleading and that you can kind of make sure that the user is interacting with the AI system in the right way and so on. Basically, that led to a project of 20 partners, and some are actually cognitive scientists, kind of figuring out if you get an answer from AI or if you're playing a game with an AI, then what are the things that you are not really saying, but assuming in this interaction that could affect the process, right? For us, as we do quite a bit of these like high level pilots, they gave us the worst one, I guess. So we were supposed to create some sort of an environment in which the user could actually put in some data from the ministry or something like that, interact with it, get advice, and even design some sort of suggestion for the policy and so on. When we were writing this, LLMs were not as big outside of the AI community. By the time the project started, it became quite big. But the setup was that we needed a ministry that would work with us because we really wanted to kind of test it out with the users that actually designed the policy. So we went for demographics and family welfare, but then they had a pretty bad track record, as happens in the Balkans. They did some sort of social card reform, and a lot of people that were poor became even poorer overnight, right? So what we said is, oh, it's okay, we'll do this, but then we have to have like two NGOs that are protecting digital rights of citizens and are very active in that. And another one that was the main critic of these like bad policies that were adapted for summer and so on. So we ended with quite a weird local consortium. And it actually, when the project started, we kind of it was tough to figure out, first of all, with the advance of LLMs, what this sort of interface to the for the policymaker or an analyst would look like. The other thing that we faced right away is that basically the ministry that said they're gonna do the project turned out not to really have a lot of data in digital form. So in the end, we kind of circumvented the problem by engaging our own sort of mother ministry, which is the Ministry of Science. Thankfully, they have a platform where they sort of monitor the scientific production and the basic stats about all the registered researchers in Serbia, which is about 20,000 people altogether. And so we got our data set, and then by that time we realized that the easiest way for this person, which in Serbia and I guess in a lot of the region, it's not that every policymaker has a data scientist or there's an office that handles this and can validate their assumptions and so on. So we basically wanted to replace the data scientist with an AI agent, which would pretty much be able to do everything that a data scientist usually would do. And so you would, as a ministry official, you could just input the data and ask questions about it and ask it even to plot the data, ask quite complex things for it to try to predict, and you would get the result. This worked well for us because quite a few of other technical partners in the consortium from Europe have their own methods that are focused on fairness in making the decision and models and things like that. So in this sort of setup, we could add all these tools to it, right? So that we could easily integrate and try things out. And I'm not going to bother you. I see Gyon has a timer for me, which usually means I'm taking my time, right? And I don't know if I guess the machine learning people know what RAG is. So basically, it's an LLM kind of is grounded to a set of documents, in this case, structured data, and we can sort of ask a lot of questions to it. And if you would look at it, the thing that we kind of added is not only this part, but we actually transform a lot of the queries to Python code. And this allows us actually to do visualizations. Plus, it allows us in the last version, and we have more years to go to actually train a machine learning model that would validate an assumption. So you could ask whether whether the production is determined by gender or something like that, and actually get a statistical analysis saying that this affects it, doesn't affect it. This is just the general things that we pick up. It's public data in Serbia, so we don't have to do a lot about it. And you can even try it. I'll be happy to share. You need the credentials, but you can kind of test it out. And the things, this is an old version. Basically, you can just compare graphically the trend of total citation over the last 10 years, right, between males and females and things like that, and you would basically get graphs and so on. And for me, it was kind of weird. I asked one of the first questions that I asked is just to plot, in 5-year intervals of how many researchers we have that are male and female. And actually, in Serbia, the balance is quite good. We have more females that are researchers than males. But when you look at it, it kind of began the balance shifted in 1965, and this is just the year of the birth of the people. So in the 80s, we kind of got more ladies joining the research community. And so I'm sure I'm over the time, so I'm not gonna bother you too much. If you want more information, please reach out. And but in the end, the idea for us and what I wanted to kind of convey is that if you really want to make a change with the projects as ours, you kind of have to engage both the government and the policymakers. But if you want to make it fair in the Balkans, then you kind of have to have representatives of civil society, because usually something's going to go wrong, and if you don't have all the stakeholders, then it's going to be an issue. And wait, am I on time?
Yeah, I
Perfect.
think we're good. I think we're good.
Right.
Thank you so much, Professor. That
No
was
worries,
great.
no worries.
And great project name.
Yeah.
I think it's good. I find this topic fascinating, but I think we're a bit short on time, so we're gonna take the questions that we do have in the Q&A section. But thanks so much for taking the time. I think now we can move on to Pardul and his presentation. Let me know if you can share. Yep, perfect.
Do you see it?
We see it. Thank you so much.
Okay, perfect. So good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Badri Jashari. I'm the executive director of Metamorphosis Foundation, an NGO based in Skopje, North Macedonia. And for more than 20 years, we work at the intersection of technology and society. And today I'm glad that I will be speaking about a topic of critical importance to our joint collective future, let's say, AI and democracy. What are the risks and what are the opportunities in a fragile context? Specifically, we will look at this relationship through the lens of the Western Balkans, a region where these issues are not just theoretical and abstract, but real, unfolding every day against a backdrop of fragile institutions, contested politics, and social complexities. To begin, I'd like to emphasize that AI is not a simple force. It's neither utopian savior nor a dystopian threat. It's a powerful tool, a double-edged sword that can either reinforce our democratic values or erode them. And of course, fortunately, the outcome is not predetermined. It depends entirely on how we choose to develop, deploy, regulate, and of course, the oversight, democratic oversight of it, if it adheres to the democratic principle, is very important. That's why we have to learn, we have to participate, we have to engage together, businesses, CSOs, academia, and media to do that. Throughout this presentation, I will use a dual taxonomy to structure our thinking, and we will look at the risks that AI poses to democracy, as well as the benefits or the positive contributions it can make. I will then focus the presentation on the specific context of the Western Balkan. Most concretely, I will tackle public administration, media, and civil society, and highlighting why this region is so fragile and why issues related to AI are even more urgent, especially because our region, with its fragility, magnifies both the risks and the opportunities. And before we look into the impact of AI, we need to recall what are the core democratic principles that AI can affect. What are those values that AI can touch? For this presentation, I have selected the following. Freedom, of course, the right to expression, the right to assembly, to think freely, equality, ensuring fair access to rights and opportunities, solidarity, fostering a sense of belonging, a sense of solidarity and community, rule of law, ensuring everyone is accountable and no one is above the law, and of course, tolerant, promoting respect and diverse opinion. We could add more principles or values. We could phrase them differently, but I choose these because they are both, let's say, most essential, but also at the same time most vulnerable to the effect of technology. And AI, as I said, can either uphold these pillars or values or cause them to crumble. Now, let's explore how AI can undermine these principles or these pillars. The risks are visible already today and they are substantial. We can categorize them into four areas, and which together can undermine the core pillars that democracy depends on. First, we have the subversion of autonomy. AI can manipulate our decisions by exploiting cognitive biases, narrowing our worldviews, and eroding our ability to think independently. Second, unfairness. Biased AI systems, often trained on flawed historical data, can perpetuate and scale up discrimination, undermining the democratic ideal of equality. Third, power of asymmetries. The immense resources needed to develop and control AI, namely data and computing power, are more often concentrated in the hands of a few powerful actors, big corporations and governments. This centralizes power and reduces public accountability. Finally, the erosion of trust. The mass production of synthetic content and deepfakes undermines our ability to trust what we see, hear, and read, which is a cornerstone of any functionality. We cannot speak about a sustainable democracy if we no longer trust what we see, hear, or read. Now, let's get more specific and focus and apply this concept in the political sphere, an area of high fragility in the Western Balkans. Here, AI introduces significant political risks that affect the very high integrity of elections and public debate. We have AI-driven micro-targeting that allows for the highly personalized targeting of voters with specific and often manipulative messages. This can be used to suppress voter turnout or create emotional persuasion, undermining our ability to make informed choices. Then, recommender systems. They can act as gatekeeper of information, amplifying polarizing content and fueling divides. This then creates echo chambers where individuals only see what they already agree with, weakening the democratic ideal of tolerance and shared understanding. The risks are particularly concerning in the Western Balkans, where elections are very often contested and the media ecosystem is very weak, and also where the institutional capacity to counter these threats is often limited. But of course, it doesn't stop at domestic politics. AI also creates new geopolitical risks, adding another layer of complexity, especially in a region like the Western Balkans. Here, AI is being weaponized by foreign actors such as Russia and Iran and other countries to conduct sophisticated hybrid influence operations. This form of hybrid warfare uses AI-enhanced propaganda, botnets, deepfakes, etc., to sow discord and destabilize political processes. It's not a new form, but now with technology is even more effective, and it in amplifying unresolved dispute and interethnic tensions and any type of unresolved conflicts in the region. And the AI-powered disinformation, we call them with our colleague, we say disinformation on steroids. It can be used to amplify these historical divisions and undermine regional stability. And it's not just about spreading lies. Those hybrid campaigns can destabilize entire societies. Now, to move from the political arena to the day-to-day operation of our governments. Of course, AI can reshape how our governments function, how our institutions are functioning. But in regions where public institutions are already struggling with legacy issues and political complexities, AI introduces a new challenge. For public administration, again, it can present both a political and technological risk. The most significant is data asymmetry between the state and the citizens. In one hand, we have the state with a lot of data and resources, and in fragile democracies, states often have a lopsided data advantage. This makes AI a powerful tool for reinforcing state control through surveillance, censorship, and social credit systems. And without proper oversight and civil society organization performing their watchdog role, this can lead to authoritarian potential like predictive policing and automated repression. Furthermore, there are a lot of governments not only in the region where AI systems are black boxes and with limited transparency, making it difficult for citizens to understand and challenge decisions that affect them. And in fragile democracies, these tools can easily slide into authoritarian practices. And of course, on top of the political risks, there are practical implementation challenges that are particularly acute in the Western Balkans. The region faces infrastructure and regulatory gaps, with many countries lacking modern digital infrastructure and a cohesive legal framework for AI. These are also significant. There is a significant lack of skills, but also lack of funding, which leads to a reliance on private business technology companies, and it leads to a widening digital divide. Public mistrust is also a problem because citizens are skeptical of new technologies and because of the government, not because of the technology itself. And also, finally, bureaucratic inefficiencies that can hinder the effective implementation of new technologies, new initiatives that could deploy and use AI. And this all means political and technological challenge. It means that even a well-intentioned AI project, initiative, or policy may fail to deliver. And governments, of course, are only part of the picture. Civil society and media are also feeling the double-edged impact of AI. And somehow, for me and us, my colleagues being a civil society organization, also working with the media, we think we are at somehow the front lines. This dual nature of AI is very apparent, and its impact on us civil society organization and media is very visible. Again, here it also acts as a double-edged sword. On the one hand, AI amplifies disinformation and can be used to supercharge media capture, as I mentioned earlier, deepening political divides, sowing conflict, etc. But combined with the low levels of media literacy in the region, this makes the population particularly vulnerable to these AI-powered influence operations. And then also due to the weak media market, smaller media outlets often lack the resources to adopt AI, creating a digital divide that puts them at a disadvantage. On the other hand, AI offers powerful opportunities. It can empower journalists. It can help civil society organizations be more efficient in achieving their mission by automating several tasks and routines. For example, for journalists, and because we are also a fact-checking organization, it can help do fact-checking, identify patterns, identify actors, and in essence, it somehow it is reshaping the role that journalists and civil society activists are doing. And for journalists, they are somehow, I see they're becoming, let's say, editor of intelligence, combining human creativity with the speed of technology. And this leads us to the specific role of civil society organization, and which are critical actors in ensuring that AI serves democracy. And given the challenges and opportunities we mentioned, the specific role, there are many roles, but I see the role of CSOs as to act as whistleblowers and watchdogs, monitoring for algorithmic bias and right violation. They are crucial also for educating, raising public awareness, and holding powerful actors accountable. But at the same time, in order to do so, CSOs, we must be treated as partners in governance with let's say, a seat at the table when AI policy issues are discussed. We are always saying that we need a whole of a society approach that brings together civil society organization, academia, policymakers, businesses to design ethical and responsible solutions. However, this is not always the case, especially in our region, because without proper funding and expertise, civil society organizations risk being sidelined just when their voice is most needed. But of course, as I said, the dual-edged sword, if AI is deployed thoughtfully, responsibly, it can also be a powerful force for good and have a significant democratization impact. As it can open door for democratic renewal in the Western Balkans, and we can build a new pillar of strength. AI can enhance efficiency, it can improve accessibility by making public information and services easier for everyone to use. It can enhance transparency and accountability, making our institution more trustful. It can enable more evidence-based policymaking, ensuring that decisions are grounded in data and public needs rather than just opinion, and especially opinion of just political parties and politicians. But
Sorry, Bardul, if I can interrupt, we do need to wrap up. It's very useful talk, but if we could wrap up in the next 2 minutes, that'd be fantastic. Sorry.
yeah, I just need 2 minutes. No problem. I understand. But to seize those opportunities, we need principles to adhere to, and here you can see the principles that are the EU ethical principles of trustworthy AI. I will not read them, but it's for us. We should have a regional collaboration in the Western Balkans so that we can effectively implement these principles, learning from each other and aligning with broader European standards. This brings us to a hopeful and powerful concept, the leapfrogging opportunity. And we can use our position not just to catch up and simply digitize outdated, inefficient system, but very early to leapfrog and align with AI principles to build modern citizen-centric governance from the ground up. And regional collaboration is key. Because it allows us to share the so much needed expertise and best practices, and collectively strengthening the capacity of our institutions and aligning with, as I said, EU, and helping the whole region to access the European Union more ready and already adapted to new technological realities. So how do we move forward? Let's conclude with the key pillars that can make AI a force for democracy rather than a force against it. We have to have a human-centric design, proactive regulation, AI literacy, and an open and inclusive policy-making process. So a democratic future with AI is possible, not by default, but by design. And to make AI a force for democracy, it is essential to engage and work together. Thank you, and sorry for taking more than of your time.
Thanks very much, Bradil. That was really great. And we can just take some time out of the Q&A. I think your talk was quite important. So I'm very happy to have given a bit more time to it. And I find these overarching themes kind of very interesting. I know Professor Dubravka also noted the bureaucratic hurdles and the political challenges of trying to do something in the Balkans. It does come with its own specific sets of issues. And it's interesting to see that both of you have identified these challenges, and needing this sort of creativity to circumvent funding limitations, or these things that we're all aware of. I think the idea of regional cooperation is incredibly important, and it's interesting to see the synergies between your two talks. So while Bardil, you noted more the risks, the very real risks and the challenges of this technology, at the end of the day, you closed your talk with the idea that it's possible to integrate AI in our democratic societies. And I think that's what Professor Dubravka's talk was about with that project of Tango, how to do human AI interface in policymaking, and how can we do this in a way that actually works and does not exacerbate the inequalities. So thank you both for that. That was really fascinating talk. Unfortunately, we can't talk about it much more now, but the good news is we can hear from Itana and her talk. So thank you.
Just a moment. I will share my screen. I hope you can hear me. All right. So I was listening closely to both of your talks, and can you first confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes, we can see and hear you.
Okay. All right, so I will tackle this topic from a kind of a different point of view, and I think that that follows closely what you both have already presented, and it's kind of a next part in it, so to say. And I will be a bit of a devil's advocate here and talk mostly and be overly positive and optimistic about AI and the use of AI. So especially for sustainability and how we can help our decision makers in that aspect. So in the past few days and weeks and 2 years, more specifically since ChatGPT got introduced to our societies, we saw many headlines similar to this, that like many shocking headlines that people will lose their jobs, that we did not vote for ChatGPT, we don't want large language models in our governments, in our ministries, and that AI is listening to us, AI is doing this and that, and most of it in the negative context, and most of it related to specifically large language models and similar applications. I would like to kind of break this whole narrative and talk about other aspects of AI that are not so covered in the media, that we do not see every day, but are already here and have been for the past even 20 years. So not everything it started from the introduction of large language models. More specifically, I would like to say that within the Western Balkans, what we can, I think, all agree in the bigger or smaller way, that the biggest challenges and the most important pillars are sustainable development and climate resilience, green energy, urban planning and infrastructure, healthcare, and democracy and governance. So it is actually in every country in the world that should be focusing on this. But for us, I think those are the biggest challenges, and most of them can be helped by the using of artificial intelligence, and they can also enable us to quickly catch up on Europe and also the world and their developments. As already said, I'm Itana. I'm working as a senior machine learning engineer at Schneider Electric in Poland, actually. And I've been working in Europe since like 10 years ago. So I moved out of Montenegro. But I wanted to, together with my colleagues, found an NGO, which is Montenegrin AI Association, with the goal of simply transferring knowledge, organizing webinars, organizing lectures, teaching people on what AI actually is, how to use it, how we can leverage this technology within our society, what problems within Montenegro we can solve with machine learning and AI, and also to cooperate with other Balkan countries, because of course at some point I would also like to come back to Montenegro and work from there and be able to to transfer what I've learned. If we start talking about artificial intelligence in general, now when we ask anyone in our societies what it is, the first thing in mind would be large language models, would be ChatGPT. But I would like to go back a few steps and remind us that not everything should be and can be solved by generative AI or large language models. That a lot of our main problems in our society can simply be resolved using very simple models, machine learning models, deep learning models, and not requiring such complex systems. If we take a look at the vast amount of data that are available and that we can use, those include like time series data, imaging, where we can segment pictures, videos, and also medical imaging, then LiDAR data, 3D data of the terrain maps, textual data, audio data, graph and networks, and finally sensor data from IoT devices. So in these data modalities can be used for various domains and various applications, from, of course, journalism, policy making, medicine, finance, geography, biology. So any domain that we currently can think of can leverage AI and machine learning. But when I say AI, again, I want to remind not only large language models. So it is also machine learning. It is like classical machine learning models, the older ones, so to say, then deep learning, and then as well generative AI. Of course, it can be used. We can start from Gen AI, but in the technical, from the technical point of view, I would always, there's like this unwritten rule: let's analyze our data. Let's analyze the data type, the amount of data we have, and the compute power and resources we have before we make the decision. Let's start from simple solutions first, and then move to the most complex one. Having that in mind, I would like to give an example of a project I was working on in Poland, that since the beginning of that project, I was thinking, wow, this could be so awesome if we had it in Montenegro or in the Balkans. Why don't we do this? Poland is like 13 times the size of Montenegro, and they still managed to create the map of the entire country and to analyze everything what's going on in the nature, blue and green infrastructure. So what happened in this project is that in different levels of the project itself, we had AI. So it is not AI first. AI is just helping in this project to make it more efficient and to make better and informed decisions. So, as you know, each country and every city in our countries has those digital terrain maps. There are people working to like map the urban ecosystem. However, what do they do with them? So, what we can do is we can use machine learning, use deep learning to segment tree crown maps and then classify the tree species and analyze the health of trees. So, this is this first map that we created. The second one is based on the roof potential, so segment roof of the buildings and then analyze roof potential for example, solar panels for heat accumulation. Then we could also analyze soil quality using hyperspectral images, and we can also use the same imagery to analyze blue infrastructure of our cities, the lakes, waters, and rivers. All of these, and at each of these levels, machine learning is used to segment the trees. Previously, people were doing it manually, so the process took almost a year for a single city. So people were sitting down in their offices and clicking each tree separately. It's a tiring and I would say like not so effective process. Once we introduced AI there, the whole map with verifications was done in 1 month. So people were verifying the results of AI and they did not lose their jobs. They just got more work to do. So it wasn't one city per 1 year. It was multiple cities and they were more efficient and they were able to create more of the data itself. On all of those 4 levels, we can then combine them into a system that will be kind of a recommendation engine for municipalities. So they can find an area of interest and a given budget, and then based on the recommendations of AI, they can know what to do, like what tree to plant and how to maximize the potential of that area to make it like much better in terms of some index and score. All of this in any domain. This is like one simple example that I took, I think is because everyone living in the Balkans and all countries have same ecological challenges and problems, but it's really like a simple example that transfers into multiple domains, whether it's journalism or medicine or infrastructure. All of those can be done in a similar way, and by done like this, they improve the transparency in policies. What Professor Dubravko said, I wrote it down. We want to make the we want to create decisions based on numbers, on data, and not based on feeling. This is exactly what I wanted to say as well. So we want to have not an opinion to do something, but based on the facts or the data itself and some analysis, what we can do. This will then improve the trust in institutions because we have some proof of why and how. Then this can also help us manage risks. We can follow such examples of gather data and then see when something happens, why it happened and how to prevent it. And finally, this all leads us to resilient democracy. So when talking about this example, I mentioned that it is also transferred to other applications like energy, like waste management and smart agriculture. So those are some foundations that we cannot ignore in order to have like democratic and prosperous societies. The problem is that This example that I gave is currently in the box of blue-green infrastructure, but it is transferable across all four. And the issues we have in the Balkans is that our ministries or our institutions do not communicate and do not share data and do not share information, lessons learned, and so on. It is kind of everyone is living in their own bubble and silos, and the information doesn't go out of it. So I think this is what I see as the biggest problem. AI can help, but if we want AI, we need to first have digital infrastructure. So we need to be digitalized first and have a correct data governance and data. And if we want that, then in order to have that, we need to first have the cross-sector collaboration and the ecosystem of innovation, research, of civil societies pinpointing the problems, communicating with everyone, and giving their feedback and opinion. Because this is my perspective. All of you had different perspectives, and I think this is important to share the knowledge and to see what are the challenges. And this is exactly the graph of how every country should operate. We have academia that has access to knowledge, talent pool, they follow trends, they know what is new in AI and new algorithms and what can be done. That's the most important. So we know what can be done. Industry can help do it. So they have research, they have infrastructure and resources and money to invest into such solutions. And then government is the one who needs to say, this is what we need. We have problems with this. Can someone help? Like, we want to have projects that do something actually that can be implemented and help within our societies. And we do not want to invent projects. There are many challenges that we have currently that can be solved. And in the intersection, of course, is innovation and all of these awesome projects that you are doing and that we are trying to implement and use in our countries. So this is it from me. We can do the questions now or later if you have. I hope I didn't go over time much.
No, I think it was good. First of all, thanks so much. I really like your perspective because I have the same. I'm also overly optimistic, and I think that there is a lack of discussion on what good this technology could do. Spatial planning is fascinating. Disaster relief is fascinating through geospatial imaging, waste reduction, agriculture. These are stuff that can work, but I think you bring out such a valid point when you say digitalization first, then AI, and when you say cross-sectoral communication first, and then, because collaboration is the only way in which you can make these things happen. I also find interesting the connection to the previous talk of research and data first. I mean,
Yes.
numbers don't lie, math doesn't lie, and if we can build up that sort of store of small, successful little projects that prove the viability of this technology being used for good, then that could be scaled and replicated. So I think your talk is quite valuable in that respect. And thanks so much.
Thanks.
I love to hear about how we can save the world. I think for the questions, we'll just head to the Q&A section later. And I think now we can go with Ledia and her presentation on cybersecurity. Thank you.
Yeah, hello, it's my turn now to say hello to everyone. First, allow me to share my slides. I promise it will be a short ride, so hopefully we will not regret getting on board. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so officially, good afternoon, everyone. So good to virtually meeting you. First of all, I want to thank Solaris Project, as well as Albanian Institute for International Studies for bringing us together for this important conversation on AI. So I accepted the invitation with great pleasure, to be honest. and also with a deep sense of responsibility, because as you may have understood, this is not anymore a theoretical discussion. It is definitely known that the way we choose to approach AI in our region will have a direct impact on how the future of our democracies, our economies, and our security will be done. So we have already heard insightful contributions from Professor Dubravko, from Mr. Yashari on risk, and from Ms. Itana on how we can think about AI. And these perspectives set the stage perfectly. Now I would like to bring in the voice from Albania with a specific focus on how AI intersects with cybersecurity risks and governance. By background, my name is Ledia Tsanga, and I work as a senior expert in cybersecurity risk management at the National Cybersecurity Authority of Albania. I'm a certified internal auditor, certified information system auditor, and recently a project management professional. All day chilling and drilling with the cybersecurity risks. Share you something personal. In my daily work and in my daily life, I often notice that people, even my family, think about cybersecurity only as a technical problem, something that IT staff should fix it with firewalls or patches. But when we assess risk or cybersecurity risk at a national level, we quickly realize that cybersecurity is a matter of governance, of accountability, of culture, and decisions about risk are never just technical, but they are strategic. By the way, speaking of AI, as Ms. Itana mentioned, now you may have seen the news. Albania recently appointed Diela, a virtual AI minister, to oversee public procurement. Yes, we now have a cabinet member who is part of an algorithm. I mentioned this not just because it's eye-catching, but because it brings up exactly the questions I want us to explore today. So what does it mean when AI is given roles of accountability? When is transparency promised? And how do we manage the risk and of governance and governance consequences of such symbolic and practical move? And why they are essential if we want an AI to strengthen rather than weaken our democracy and security. So before we dive into risk, it is important to recognize where Albania stands today in terms of artificial intelligence. So while we are still at an early stage compared to many EU countries, the government has already taken some concrete steps towards AI adoption and integration. You may have heard about e-Albania platforms. Citizens today can access almost all government services online. With Inetum Consulting, the government has designed an AI strategy and roadmap. With Presite, Albania has launched a nationwide smart city project to digitize urban infrastructure, improving public services. And beyond projects, the government has also moved at the policy level, launching a public consultation on a national AI strategy. Embedding AI-related priorities into the national development and European integration strategy, approving the National Strategy for Innovative Entrepreneurship 2024-2030, which supports startups that may build AI-driven solutions, the Law National Security Strategy, this recently approved legal document outlines global and regional security threats and challenges, and National Cybersecurity Strategy and its Action Plan 2020-2025, a document by the National Cybersecurity Authority of Albania, that it includes the digitalization of public services, even though not directly linked with AI. And as I mentioned before, Albania went one step further by introducing Diela, the virtual assistant integrated into the e-Albania platform. While Albania is not yet, as I mentioned, an AI leader, you may have understood our context that we are not starting from zero. There is momentum, there is experimentation, and and there are early policy steps. But as I will argue next, every step forward with the AI introduces new risks that, if not governed properly, could undermine the very progress we are aiming for. As Mr. Yashari said, artificial intelligence is often called a double-edged sword. But for Albania, this is not anymore just a metaphor. It is daily reality we must prepare for. Let me walk you through a few risks that are not only possible, but very likely in our context. First, the disinformation and deepfakes, a threat to democratic resilience. An AIIS Threat Landscape Report 2024 identifies disinformation and deepfakes as among the fastest growing threats in Europe. AI-powered cybercrime, scaling phishing, fraud, and malware. According to Europol Tech Watch Report 2023, criminals are already exploiting generative AI to craft phishing campaigns. Dependency without governance, strategic risk for Albania. Albania has already launched, as I mentioned, ambitious AI, but most of the systems are imported, not built locally. And this creates a governance challenge. Who controls the data, the algorithms, and the accountability? A bias and unfair outcomes, undermining trust in institutions. The AI Risk Atlas 2025 warns that low resources languages like Albanian are underrepresented in AI training data, and this creates a risk of bias and conclusions. Privacy and data protection as an amplified risk. Albania has data protection laws, but enforcement remains uneven. If AI systems are allowed to process large volumes of sensitive data, like health records, financial transactions, biometric data, without strong safeguard, the risk of breaches multiplies. Adversarial AI and model manipulation is a direct cybersecurity threat. And finally, we must recognize that AI systems themselves can become the target of attack. So these are not anymore theoretical risks, and AIIS and EU legislation acts both stress the importance of robustness and the auditing of AI models. But as a double-edged sword, the AI also can be used as a defensive tool. Up to now, I have focused on the risk that AI poses for Albania, but let me also underline the other side of the story. AI is not only a source of risk, it can also be one of our strongest defensive tool if we learn how to govern and use it properly. AI can strengthen early detection of cyber threats. Globally, AI-based systems are already being used to identify anomalies in network traffic and detect attacks long before they can escalate. AI can automate incident response. Regarding to CISA, AI Cybersecurity Playbook 2024 emphasized that AI is particularly useful in security operations centers. AI can support fraud prevention and financial security. In the financial sector, which is one of the Albanian's most digitized and therefore most targeted sectors, AI can analyze millions of transactions in real time. It can flag unusual behavior, detect identity theft, and prevent fraudulent transfers before they harm citizens. AI also can help us counter disinformation. AI can improve critical services and governance efficiency because it is already being used in Albania to accelerate the translation of the European Union, the thousands of pages of EU legislation that need to be aligned with Albanian law. This is not anymore just a matter of efficiency, it is a matter of strategic importance for Albania European accession. And last but not least, AI can strengthen transparency in governance. As I mentioned, if Albania applies the same governance principle to AI as we do to cybersecurity, let's say, like transparency, accountability, and resilience, then AI can be transferred from a risk into an ally. The question for Albania is not whether we'll adopt AI, because we already have it, but the real question is, well, will we govern it well enough to make it our ally rather than our vulnerability? So now let's move to the governance and risk management. I will mention very briefly the international guidance or frameworks we can rely on securing better implementation and deploying the AI. The NIST AI risk management framework offers 4 functions: govern, map, measure, and manage. The EU AI Act 2024 is the world's first comprehensive AI law. It categorizes AI system by risk level. The NIS2 directive and the Digital Operation Resilience Act, DORA, connect AI to broader cyber resilience. They demand that critical infrastructure and financial institutions threat emerging technologies, including AI, as part of their operational risk landscape. And ISACA, in its 2025 guidance, calls this the AI governance triad by privacy, cybersecurity, and legal compliance. Together, all of these form the pillars of trust. But what does this mean for Albania? First, Albania has already adopted the new law on cybersecurity 2024, which aligns the EU NIS2 directive. It establishes strict requirements for risk management, incident reporting, and protection of critical infrastructures. Second, embedding AI risk into organizational strategies. Critical infrastructures in Albania, from banks to hospitals to energy providers, are beginning to adopt AI tools, but too often they are treated as experimental add-on. Third, clarify accountability and transparency. When an AI fails, who is responsible? Is it the vendor who designed the model, the public authority that deployed it, or the regulator overseeing the process? Albania must establish clear lines of responsibility. Fourth, Albania must build capacity and cooperation. Laws and strategies mean little without people, institutions capable of enforcing them. Albania must invest in training AI auditors, strengthening CERTs with AI expertise, and developing local capacity to test and monitor AI. I just made a quick comparative section, and resulted shows that according to the Economic Convergence Scoreboard 2025 for OECD, Albania and North Macedonia are highlighted as performing exceptionally well in business adoption of AI, which means that our private sectors is experimenting with AI tools at higher rates than some of our neighbors. But when it comes to digital public services, Albania also performs strongly. Reports from the Regional Cooperation Council shows that Albania and Serbia are among the top performers in the region for citizen interaction with government online. When we look at regulation and governance, the picture changes. Serbia is the only country in the region with a dedicated national AI strategy. Finally, in terms of skills and workforce capacity, Albania, like much of the region, faces gaps. Reports highlight that Serbia and Montenegro actually are closer to EU averages in computer and data skills. Implications and call to action for Albania. First, democratic resilience. AI-driven disinformation and deepfakes could become one of the biggest threats to Albania's democracy. Critical sectors must be prepared, not only adapting AI, but they are also highly vulnerable if AI systems are misused or manipulated. Third, a national AI strategy is very urgent. Serbia already has one. North Macedonia has adopted ethical guidelines. Albania has only launched a consultation. Fourth, we should invest in people. Technology alone obviously is not enough. Albania needs experts who can design, audit, and govern AI systems. Regional and European cooperation. AI risks do not stop at borders. Albania should strengthen cooperation with its Western Balkan neighbors, sharing knowledge, training programs, and even data resources for building AI tools in our languages. The implication is clear. Albania has momentum, but it also has vulnerabilities. The choice we face is whether AI will become a driver of trust, transparency, and accountability and resilience, or a source of systemic risk. So that was my presentation. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Lydia. That was great.
Yeah.
Again, similar problems, right, that our region faces. I think they're pretty much universal, but a bit amplified over in our region. The idea of ethics, who controls this data, that is really something that speaks to the lack of this technology coming from these our countries, the lack of technology development within the Western Balkans is something that was mentioned by a few of you. The gaps in trained young people that can actually run these audits and checks on, or even develop the technology. So the idea of investing in people is, I think, a very strong point that you touched on. One thing that was also interesting, you mentioned democratic resilience and how that is affected. And I was reminding of Bardul's talk about the media and its role in it. I know that Albania faces similar situation to North Macedonia in that aspect, the media fragmentation. And there's all these small outlets that they're experimenting, yes, as you say, but like who is putting the checks on these experiments? Are they successful? Are they working well? Are they accurate? So I think there is momentum, which is fantastic. And we need just a bit more collaboration and a bit more investment in this thing, in these people that can train and do these things. But thank you so much for the talk. I think we have everybody now. Pardon the noise. I am in the capital here in Tirana, so that is to be expected. I think we can move on to the Q&A section right now, if that's okay with everyone. And I see some questions here, and we will try to do 2 questions per speaker. I think that's fine enough. Perhaps we can start with Professor Dubravka, since you led the discussion.
Sure.
Well, I think your talk was quite, you started the discussion, excuse me. I think it's important to note that the Tango project is very interesting, very cool, I would say, even if I'm allowed to use that word. But we are interested here at Solaris to understand what sort of checks you would build so that people can question model outputs before they're used in policy. So not just taking this information in and saying, okay, the AI said this is what I do, and passes that information as correct.
Okay, so basically we made it as an assistive technology. So you can use it to explore stuff. You can get ideas. You can try out. You can ask it to test ideas to give you kind of statistical things and so on. But it will not really do the decision for you. So it will never really work on its own without the help of the human policymaker and so on. There are other pilots, but kind of not really applicable in this context. If you have a system where you really decide, the AI decides something about the person, then there's a whole different set of tools that's being developed on algorithmic recourse. You can then ask it why this decision was made and how you could maybe change something in it or change some of the facts so that the decision is different. To be honest, that pilot actually focuses on quick loans from the large Italian bank. So there it makes sense that you can kind of apply to it, right? And it's not that the idea there is to speed up the process. So not every decision can be checked by a human unless you have an issue with it or you try to do something for it. For us, it's more of a general kind of a setup, and the challenge for us is to kind of figure out what kind of tools we can build for the users so that they can really validate the assumptions. So we started with visualizations, but then we realized, what if somebody wants to ask if if a certain hypothesis is true? So what our system basically does is builds sort of a classical machine learning model in the background, right? And tries to take out this feature that they're interested in and so on, and see how the model performs and gives statistical kind of support for the hypothesis or not. So, and plus, we're now integrating tools that can kind of try and do kind of standard automatic tests in terms of whether the data is skewed in a way, or the distribution of some things is not there, and so on. So, but in the end, it's just enabling as many checks as you can, and while we're exploring, we make sure that not only the policymakers in the ministry test it out, but also our friends from the civil society. They will probably try it out, try to break it in different ways, and then we have some sort of a consensus that this is good enough. Well, for us, good enough is better than the state of the art that we have, right? Which is not a lot.
Yes, thanks for that. I think, well, I don't know. I don't have the technical or expertise that you have, but that sounds right to me. No, it's a tool. You use it, you experiment with it, you get better with it, and then kind of use it as a way to assist you in decision making, but not replace. I think that's something that is said, but perhaps doesn't permeate the public sphere as much as the reality. But
No, I mean because it's not, let's say, the things that the people will probably figure out with this is not, they're not going to be groundbreaking, right? But if it affects 20,000 people, then it's, you want to be sure that the due process was followed, right?
absolutely, yeah. Well, thanks for your input. We have another question for Bardul this time. Let's see, we have a few actually. Maybe we can pick one. Yes, well, Mr. Bardul, you talked about the fragile Balkan context and AI-driven risks to democratic processes. Which of these risks do you feel are most immediate? And what sort of warning signals should these watchdogs or NGOs watch for?
So during my presentation, I mentioned several risks, but if I had to choose one, let's say the most urgent, or let's say the top of the list risk, I would again say that it's political manipulation and hybrid threats, because we have seen hybrid attack in the region, in North Macedonia, in Albania, also in Montenegro. I don't know of any example in Serbia, but I'm sure there are. And I would put political manipulation and hybrid influence at the top of the list. And as I noted, because of the specificities of our region, which is paralleled with low levels of trust toward institutions, high level of corruption, and also a very low level of media literacy and critical thinking skills. This makes the region even more susceptible to AI threats. And for me, this is the major, let's say, and most urgent threat to our region. And because, as I said, it can supercharge those disinformation campaign. We have a regional project at Metamorphosis Foundation, working with several fact-checking organizations in the region, where we analyze those threats, we analyze different narratives, and we see that there is a certain period of time when there are no disinformation campaigns in the region. Sometimes it's the intensity is lower, but they come into waves. So if there is an important event happening, an anniversary or anything that can be exploited to solve a conflict, it will be used, and then we will see those spikes of disinformation narrative going up. So and those for us are, let's say, the warning signals. So organization like Metamorphosis working in the region, they can who have this watchdog role and have watchdog journalists, they can should be on the lookout for sudden and coordinated surge of disinformation campaign on social media, especially deepfakes or false narrative, targeting specific political processes a special election, I would put the focus, if in this sphere of political manipulation, I would give priority to protecting the integrity of election, which are very often targeted by disinformation campaigns. And AI is really used to target political candidates. It's used to target ethnic groups or democratic institutions. And yeah, a red flag. And when you see you see a rapid spread of those narratives that are really eroding trust into institutions, but also trust into elections. This is something that is a sign for organization, for civil society organization, but also state institution to react and try to minimize, to diminish the effect, the negative effect that they have on the citizens, especially during elections, on the voters.
I think that's very well put. And just as a quick supplement, if you could just give a few sentences on, you've mentioned some of these instances when, these AI disinformation campaigns have happened. Could you touch on a little bit on the response that, say, North Macedonia had to kind of labeling that as misinformation? Maybe the media reacted in some way, saying, how quick was that response, and was it effective at all?
So unfortunately, of course there is a response, but mostly the response is from civil society organization and media organization, and this should not be led to civil society organization and media alone, because we don't see those threats as a media problem or a problem of the quality of content, of the quality of the media. It's a security threat, and to deal with security threats, we have to cooperate, and the government institutions should also be involved. Unfortunately, in most of the countries, the capacities within the state institutions is not at the required level. First, sometimes even the awareness about those threats is not at the required level, because they don't see often as those disinformation campaign as a security threat, although it's changing. So the reaction is, of course, doing a debunking, and just not only by doing fact checking, because this is not enough, but really to do explanatory, in-depth articles about issues that are the most exploited by foreign malign actors, and especially those that use AI to amplify with deep fakes to make it even more trusted. So there was a reaction. The reaction was mostly from civil society organizations like Metamorphosis Foundation. It is good to have these types of reaction. It's good to have a public record that will show the interested citizens what the truth is. But this should be combined also with the government reaction. So to have institutions like CERT and CIRT, but also to have strategies to counter hybrid threats and treat disinformation campaign as a security issue. So there are a lot of things that still need to be done. And as I said in my presentation, but it was also said by other presenters, collaboration is key, it's essential, it's critical even, and it should go across all societal actors, and the civil society organization, the government, the media, the academia, and the businesses should work together in order to have not only a strategy, a paper, and also an action plan, but also to put in place very concrete instruments to counter those threats when they appear. And they appear all the time.
Thank you for that. I think it's interesting and shows like the level at which this problem exists and could escalate. So it's good that we touch on that. We have a question here now for Itana. Am I saying that right, Itana? Sorry.
No.
It seems like the audio might be a bit iffy. Should we maybe...
Can you hear me?
Yeah. It's a bit iffy, but I think maybe you have some headphones that you could use. We could talk to Lydia.
Okay.
We'll take her question, and then maybe if you, yeah. Thank you, Tom. Okay, Lydia. So you're put on the spot now,
Here I am.
and we will. We did have one interesting question from you because you mentioned the NIS tool in your presentation. So, Solaris Consortium is curious to know how would you embed AI risk into this NIS tool aligned governance without, overburdening bureaucratically the whole process. So yeah, feel free to talk about risk assessment, incident reporting, whatever.
Okay, thank you for your question. I will keep it very simple in order to be easily eatable from all of the audience. The key is to build on what we already have under NIS2 rather than creating parallel processes. For risk assessments, for example, it can be as simple as adding an AI lens to the existing risk register, one extra column where operators indicate whether a system is AI-driven or AI-enabled and what new risks this introduces. That way, AI risk is integrated, not isolated. For incident reporting, you mentioned, I would not propose new deadlines or extra paperwork. Instead, I would expand the existing categories to include, let's say, AI-related incidents. For example, AI data leak, model compromise, or AI misuse. This ensures that AI incidents are treated with the same seriousness and ransomware or DDoS, but without duplicating reporting burdens. And for supply assurance, again, keep it as simple as you can. An AI annex to existing contracts requiring vendors to declare whether their system is high risk under the EU AI Act, to document how data is used and to provide evidence of basic robustness and bias testing. In other words, we don't need to reinvent governance for AI. We just need to extend NIS2 practices in a proportionate way so that AI risks are visible, accountable, and auditable without drawing operations into that bureaucracy. Thank you.
Well, thanks. Yeah, that's simple but comprehensive. So
Thank you.
pretty good. Thank you. Okay, so I see Tana has some
Yes.
earphones
Is it
now.
better
Okay,
now?
that's perfect. Thank you. Okay, so let's try this question again. You have worked on geospatial and geospatial and urban planning. How could satellite or sensor data support faster responses in things like heat waves, which we suffered from in Albania quite a bit this August, and floods? And specifically, if you could touch on how machine learning or artificial intelligence comes into that
Yes, I
role.
think the answer is pretty similar to what I presented earlier with the example. Although the example was showing airborne imagery, so this is like the planes are targeting and flying over the area and taking the digital terrain, creating the digital terrain map. But similarly, satellite imagery can also be used, and there is like accessible imagery on Google Earth Engine that is like people can simply use for their research, for the analysis. So it's like available from Sentinel and Landsat satellites. So any country can access those this imagery and follow it almost in like real time. So those satellite views can be like used from Google Earth Engine, and machine learning models can be implemented to follow the, let's say, for forecasting of the floods, for example, to track the behaviors, to analyze this data. Similar for the heat waves. I mean, it's very like complex answer to say how to fight against it, but I think one of the possibilities and solution is what I mentioned, to see where there are like roof potentials, for example, where there is heat accumulation in our cities, where to plant green infrastructure like trees to like fight against this huge heat waves. But it's like all of those challenges are solvable. Like we are able to analyze it, we have the data, we can do it. The problem is how to act on it. So for example, in Montenegro we had a huge fires this summer. I think you all heard from the news. Almost half of the country was in the fires. But over the past 2 years, there was a startup in Montenegro creating AI technology to detect early smoke in real time on the surveillance videos. And actually, they didn't have any support from the municipalities and from the government. The capital city had like a wildfire that was detected by these systems, but those systems were not used. So I would say that we can use AI. There are engineers, there are very good researchers in all of our country, good research institutes, universities. There are like research groups that work on these problems. But the problem is that, okay, now we have the solution. Someone needs to use it. Someone needs to really upskill in the government, in municipalities, to understand how this technology should be used and act accordingly based on the outputs of those systems and based on the data. So I think this is the main problem, not necessarily how we can create and what models to create, whether it's LLMs or some standard statistical models or machine learning. I think it's mostly people and our perception of the technology and integrating it and getting used to new things, basically.
Thanks so much. That is always a challenge, but it's very refreshing to hear, perhaps not refreshing, but encouraging to hear that, this technology is out there and viable and, ready to be implemented. We just need to actually do it and prove some success.
Yes, I mean, it's like a bit of also simplification. Sometimes there are multiple steps that we need to take, but we need to be ready, and end users need to be ready. So for example, if we want to use AI now, it won't be now. What we can do now is plan and gather data and see what to do with it. And then we will have AI, high quality systems in a few years. But the problem is, I think, in all of our countries that we are not so, we want to do it at the moment. We want to publish it everywhere, say it in the media that we did something. It's not like high quality work. So I think we need to plan long term. And this is really an investment for 5 years, 6 years. However, with our politicians, I don't think this is acceptable to have the end result in 5 years when someone else may be in the government. So this is, I think, one of the biggest challenges we face.
Yes, I think long term is the only way you make progress happen, and it's most definitely a challenge in my country. I can tell you that for sure. So yeah. Well, thanks very much for that. I think we might have time for a few more questions. We'll try to make it work. Let's see. Well, there's quite a few here. Maybe this one for Mr. Bardud. I'm not sure if you touched on this, but if you can mention some concrete actions that local media and NGOs, civil society organization can take to kind of tackle this AI-driven misinformation in elections. Like what sorts of actions do you think have a chance of working well?
So it's actually things that we are already trying to do, and civil society organization and local media, as I said in my presentation, we are somehow at the forefront of this fight, and we have a critical role to play as editors of intelligence, as fact checkers, as watchdogs, and what we can do, and we will try to do, because we have elections in local elections now in October here. Then we have elections also in Kosovo, and in the region there are also elections. And with our partners, what we try to do is to establish a rapid response fact-checking hub. CSOs and media outlets, we will put resources together, meaning people, so that we can also use AI tools, but the purpose of this will be really to make our work more efficient and to quickly identify disinformation campaigns that will really threaten the election integrity, but also that we will try to dissuade voters from participating. So we will try to quickly identify deep fakes. We will try to track botnets. We will debunk misinformation before it goes viral. So this is something that we already do, but during elections, everything should be very quick, so that before it becomes viral. In order to do so, that's why we want to establish this rapid response fact-checking hubs throughout the region, and to activate them where there are elections at the moment. So for the moment now we have local elections in North Macedonia. We have also elections in Kosovo. So that's what we want to do. What we can also do is really to launch a public AI literacy campaign. You know, especially given the fact that we have a very low level of digital literacy and media literacy in the region, we have this, CSOs have this role of public education, and we could specifically focus on AI risks. This doesn't have to be very complex. It can be a series of short, engaging videos or infographics shared on social media that teach citizens how to recognize AI-generated fakes. And because, as I always say this, it's better to be proactive rather than reactive, and it's better to prepare citizens, to educate them, rather than with debunking and explanation to try to minimize the negative effects of AI-driven disinformation campaigns.
Well, thanks for your answer. I'm curious about whether social media is included in that thing when you talk about media and the rapid spread of disinformation and stopping it before it gets there. Is that social media as well, or is that like a completely different category?
No, it's social media as well, of course, and especially because social media are like everywhere, the main channel of first to consume information, but also to consume disinformation. They are the main challenge of spreading the disinformation. So cooperation with social media is very important. At the moment in the region, the cooperation with Facebook is still active. I don't know if it will be by the end of the year, and if it will be active next year, because we know that Facebook stopped its activities in the United States. But Facebook plays a very important and very good role when it comes to stopping deepfakes and disinformation before they go viral at the moment. I don't know what will happen after in January.
That's an interesting point. I didn't think of it like that. I guess the narrative is, well, I guess the sentiment of people is that these large companies do not care so much about leaking of misinformation. But from what you say, we see some different things. That's interesting. Well, yes,
okay.
Please
No,
go ahead.
just what I don't know about caring, but it's about doing, because social media, they have a very concrete role to play, and they have very concrete things to do. So, and they can do much more. So they don't do it. I don't know if this is an indicator of not caring, but at the moment, Facebook in the region, in the Western Balkan, is doing the most.
Thanks for that. very relevant to Solaris. Maybe we can adjust some paragraphs that we have written in a few deliverables. I think we're approaching the end now. And maybe one more question, and then we'll get everybody's final thoughts. Perhaps this is a question that was posed to Lydia. And the idea is this: with these uneven resources across the Balkans, do you see any regional cooperation mechanisms they could kind of raise the floor on AI cyber readiness?
Yes, I can mention three very practical things we could do together in the Balkans within 6 months, let's say, or within the months. First, we can agree on a regional minimum baseline for AI cyber readiness or short list of controls that every critical operator should meet, no matter the country. For example, keeping a simple registry of AI risks, AI models, logging how they are used, and testing them once before deployment. Second, we could create a shared threat intelligence community focused only on AI abuse, disinformation campaigns, phishing kits in our local languages, and these do not respect borders, as I said. If we exchange this intelligence monthly, let's say, we will all be faster in detecting and responding, especially before sensitive events like elections. And third, we could run a joint tabletop exercise on an AI incident. For instance, a scenario where a deepfake video combines with an AI-powered spearfish to trigger financial fraud or service disruption. Running this once at a regional level would give every country a template to repeat domestically, and it would build trust among our teams. So none of these require huge budgets or new institutions. They require coordination and willpower. If we do them, then for sure, within a short specified time, the region will have a stronger shield, even if individual resources remain uneven. Thank you.
Thanks, Lenia. That's very informative. We're in the last, excuse me, we're in the last stretch right now, the last 10 minutes. So maybe we can collect any final thoughts that some of the panelists or speakers may have. So if anybody wants to make a closing statement, they can do so now. From my end, maybe I'll go first. I really value this discussion, and it's interesting to see the parallels within our countries. I mean, we all are in one quite particular region that faces similar issues of low levels of training, perhaps immigration, perhaps the checks on governance that are not exactly working super well when it comes to this new technology. The sort of lagging legislation with that of the EU, maybe a fragmented media environment, maybe the lack of cooperation, and all these individual initiatives that kind of do not merge at a particular point, but they sort of parallel one another. And I think what you all offered in this talk is incredibly valuable, especially on the points of how we can label risks, how we can work together more, and the responsibilities of various actors in responding to a new technology that can be disruptive like AI, and where it can be the most disruptive. It was interesting to hear about Tango works in integrating AI in policy making. It's interesting to hear about, from Itana's point of view, how AI can be used simply and in a way that can help address real problems in the Balkans, with the wildfires, cybersecurity issues, and the emergence of this Diela. It's a fascinating development, very strange, but it's real. So it's interesting to talk about it, and of course, the expertise of Mr. Bardil with the years of experience in media literacy and that highlighting of those issues in media literacy and how people maybe not be equipped to respond to this. It's also highly relevant, I think. So thank you all. This was really interesting. And those are my final thoughts. And if anyone else has something they want to say, please go ahead.
Maybe just to say that I would say that we should we should not spread technophobia and or AI phobia, and we should really. I'm speaking about the region because there is this tendency to say technology is bad and it's affecting negatively our life. We should be optimistic, as Itana said, and Lady as well. We should embrace AI, but we have to do it our eyes open, be responsible, and engage and work together. That's my final thought.
Yes, for me too, following what Bardel and Itana said, when we talk about AI, we often focus on technology, algorithms, or regulations. But at the end of the day, AI is really about people. It's about whether citizens can trust their institutions. It is about whether young people in Albania and the Balkans will see AI as an opportunity to create, to innovate, and to build their future here. And also it is about whether our region can show that even small countries can lead with courage, responsibility, and vision. Yes, definitely AI brings risks. We all know that. But risks are only one side of the story. The other side is a possibility to use AI to defend democracy, to empower societies, and to open the new horizons. So my final message is this: let us not be afraid of AI. Let us shape it, not with fear, but with responsibility, not with hesitation, but with ambition. If we succeed, then Albania, together with its Balkan neighbors, can become not just followers in this new era, but contributors, innovators, and why not leading in making AI a force for trust and resilience. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lydia. That was great.
I really don't want to add anything after this. This was perfect closing. But still, without repeating what you guys said, I completely agree with everything. I would just like to emphasize the importance of inspiring each other. And I will give an example from Montenegro, because we are the smallest country here and maybe lagging behind Albania, Serbia, and Estonia in some aspects. But when in 2022, when we founded Maya, our NGO for AI, it was actually inspired by Serbian AI Association. And then in the same time, Albanian AI Association was also founded. So we connected all on social media. And I think that such stories and such initiatives, whether those are governmental institutes or research institutes or NGOs, are really helpful in our all of our countries to share the knowledge, do such webinars, communicate with each other, and get inspired by some projects that you have in other. I'm definitely inspired after this topic, so I would like to see some of these projects in Montenegro as well. Thanks to everyone.
Thank you. Federica, from you, maybe a closing statement of as the Solaris leader.
Yeah, thank you very much. So this has been such an interesting and inspiring webinar. So my thanks to you, John, for putting this together, selecting such a high-level group of speakers. Thanks to the panelists for making the time for us. The contents have been so valuable because they went really just beyond the democratic challenges. They also, I think, went beyond just the Balkans as a geographic area. I think we have learned a lot about what we can do good with AI. I particularly enjoyed the positive that you have showed that we can do with it. All the final messages deeply resonate, not just with me, but also with the spirit of the consortium. Last but not least, I would like to thank our colleagues at Brand Media Bulgaria, because they have been handling the campaign for advertising the event on social media, and they gave us visibility. So thank you again for those who attended the webinar, for staying with us, for your interest into the project, and we look forward to see you again in some other occasion. Thanks a lot, John. I hand you over to you.
Thanks, Federica. Yeah, I don't know if we heard from Professor Dubravsov, but
I knew you were going to do that.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to make sure to
Hey,
get
it's
it.
so for me, not a recap and so on, maybe not related, but there is this sort of governmental top-down approach to cooperation, which sometimes works, sometimes doesn't work, sometimes breaks down horrifically. My feeling is that in the region, historically, the civil society organizations have been much more willing to work together, right? And so my suggestion and something that we do quite well in Serbia and with our friends from Croatia and things like that is that if the civil society organizations connect, and they usually have a big network, then it makes it easier to kind of partner with even the governmental institution, or especially science institution, to get the technology they need or solutions and apply them where they need it. A good example is, as Bardil said, they're going to have a center for fact checking. There are solutions that might help with that, just make it faster, right, for the people, and they could be shared by the civil society organizations under some, super easy, non-expensive licensing terms and things like that. So I think it's important, and I know we do this for the projects, right? But once you connect, it's good to see if there's some cross-pollination and some other things that can be, continued after that.
Thank you. That was really good. I think the role of
I love
NGOs
the
is
surprise part of your part.
Yeah. So I think NGOs they have that role, right? You have to fill in these gaps, and it's good to hear that they're doing that well. Yeah, we try to do that as well. So, well, thanks everyone. This was really fun. First time moderating. I think it was really nice to do this. Everybody that participated will be receiving a feedback form. I mean, I think it's nice if you do it, but we already got a poll, so we got some quantitative, so it's okay. But thanks very, very much for your time. You're all very busy, so we really appreciate you taking the time to be here. And thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Have a nice day.
Bye,
Thank you,
everyone.
John,
Bye.
for moderating. Bye.
It was a
See you
pleasure.
in other similar events. Thank you.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye,
Thank you. Bye.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.